Hello everyone and welcome to a new Eurovision season that is not really just around the corner, but we actually have some content leading in to next year's Eurovision. Eurovision 2025 will have its first competing song announced very shortly. It will come from the country of Montenegro, and I guess the people of Montenegro, or the broadcaster, just like we kind of sympathized with all of us Eurovision fans, I suppose, because we're all just starved to get excited for the next season's show, and they decided, why wait? Let's just get it out of the way early and decide a song. And I personally am very happy about that, because that means I get to just build up a little bit of excitement for next year's show, which I hope will be far superior to the one we just had. I'm staying optimistic. Hopefully things will work themselves out, and hopefully we'll have a great show in 2025 in May when it comes around. The first step on the way is to just kind of discuss the songs competing in Montesong 2024, actually, because it's of course still 2024, and the final will be hosted very shortly, and we will get the first song. And there are 16 songs competing in this national final. On screen right now, you can't really see all of them, but you can see 14 of them, but I promise the final two ones are there as well once I start moving some songs on this tier list that I will be trying to place out. I've listened for the past few days to just kind of get to know all of these songs in the selection. I know some people want me to make reaction videos to listening to the songs. It's just not really possible anymore due to so many issues with the copyright system on YouTube. And I have to be honest, it takes a lot of work for me to really just delegate time to record so many videos. I mean, you can imagine how many national finals there are. To record videos about every single one, and then the first thing that happens when you try and share it with people is that it gets taken down or blocked, or you get a strike on your channel. So it's just really depressing to make those kind of videos, which is probably the reason why I decided to just kind of, in my mind at least, I've decided on not making more of them, but you never know what's gonna happen. But for now, I think this is a decent solution. I still want to talk about national finals and Eurovision as a whole, of course. So, tier lists, something that I've done so many times on my channel, and something that I will do for this particular video. I will be going through every single song in this selection. I will be placing them into a category. Usually I try to kind of like name the categories after something that I think just kind of works and kind of explains my thoughts on the songs. But in this case, this tier list was already finished. It's by PT Marble, so shout out to you. You made my job a lot easier, which meant that I didn't have to put together my own tier list for this. And the categories that were on this were already set, and they are the standard tier list pattern, I suppose, with S, A, B, C, D, E, F. And I will just place the songs where I think they fit according to my personal preference, and you're completely free to disagree however much you want, as long as we just kind of stick to the terms of agree to disagree, because that's what it all comes down to anyway. I think without further ado, I'll just get right into it. And I'm going to be starting with the song Kraj by Anastasija Koprolčec, or I would be butchering all of these names, but anyway, the song Kraj, I think that's probably as close as it gets to the song title anyway. Which is quite a nice tune altogether. I think the instrumentation is a bit on the formulaic side on this one. There's a bit of a lack of substance instrumentally altogether, I think. There are neat ideas in here to kind of create some ambience and make it powerful and engaging and atmospheric. And there's also quite a grand vocal performance to this song. I think, however, the backdrop ultimately just ends up being a bit... I think pretentious is quite a harsh word to describe it with, but I think that it tries to overdo things that it doesn't really need to do. There's a nice ambition of making this very emotional, which I can appreciate, but I don't really think it has that kind of dynamic passion that can actually make the song effective in its impact on the listener. Also, it just feels a bit kind of hastily put together towards the end. There's a very abrupt ending. Throughout the song, there are scattered some really strange sound effects, which I think kind of sound out of place. So all of these factors kind of hold the song back a little bit, and it's a shame because I think there's a lot of potential in this. But as it stands right now, I will probably place this in the C category, which is just, in the middle. It feels like it fits there, at least in my preference at the moment. So I'm pretty satisfied with placing it there. for now. Maybe there will be some rework done to it. Maybe the live performance will knock it out of the park. We never know until it actually happens. But for now, I'm placing it right in the middle of the tier list here. Next up is probably one of the most, if not the most interesting song in the selection, I have to say. This one is called Srca, or not. It's by Baryak. It's a group here, and this absolutely is the song that stands out in the selection for me. I think if I have some things that I want to complain about, I would probably say that I think the drums need to take a bit more space in the mix in this song. They're kind of held back just a tad. And probably like there's an attempt to make really huge choruses of this song, but I think they maybe lack a little bit of memorabilia in the melodic aspect. However, I think there are so many so much great stuff about it as well. It's atmospherically very compelling. I like how it keeps itself refreshing with different vocalists as inputs throughout the song. It makes it feel very lively and progressive, and I can absolutely click with that. I also really appreciate the fact that they make something that stands out like this. And as I said, I think it's very engaging and atmospherically very strong. So I'm placing this one in the A category, and for as it stands right now, I think I would be very excited if Montenegro actually ends up sending this one, as long as it comes together very nicely in the live performance, of course. But I'm very optimistic about this one. I was positively surprised when I heard this one in the selection. It stands out, it's very engaging, and I'm a fan. Absolutely. Next up is the band Bend 9 here with the song Stop War, which is obviously very on the nose. You can't really not be when you have the song called Stop War. This one also stands out quite massively, just like Srca there, but in a different way. This is all out kind of aggression, intensity, a lot of force, a lot of drive in this song. And it's very just kind of focused on rhythmic intensity to be the focus of this song. However, I find it to really clash with itself. It becomes very muffled and clustered and a bit chaotic altogether. Maybe that's the point to an extent, but to me, it just really provides no clarity, and overall it kind of sounds really messy, which I think is an issue. A live performance could, of course, really highlight the strengths of this song. But as I listen to it now, I find it to be kind of melodically uninspired. It doesn't stick with me. There's a lot of just heavy compression in this track that really suffocates all of the sound. And it's not a very pleasant listening experience for me. I find it, you put on the headphones and it's all over the place and far from enjoyable. I always kind of don't want to put songs in the F tier, but the tier is there for a reason. And here is where I find that they have an idea, but they haven't had the proper execution to it, in my opinion. I think the production just holds it back massively. It doesn't have that melodic approach that's just distinct and proper. It's a bit all over the place. It's too messy for me. I can't get any enjoyment out of it, and I'll just have to put it there based on what I prefer song-wise here. I understand if that song has some fans, like it absolutely stands out, but I just find it to be a concept that I could be a fan of, but the execution needs a lot more work and polish in it for me to enjoy it. So unfortunately, I'm placing it at the bottom. Next up is Dolce Hera or Dolce Hera. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. The song is called Repeat. I can pronounce that pretty easily. This song has many flaws. It has some strengths, I suppose, but the main flaw is probably the mixing. It sounds really off. The mixing is kind of honestly quite awful, especially in terms of equalizing and compression and balancing, I think, mainly. The vocal arrangement feels a bit on the flat side. The choruses in particular, who also have quite an uninspired harmony, I'd say. Like the harmony is basically just another vocal layer behind repeating, ironically, I suppose. Basically repeating what the lead vocal is all about. It's not particularly interesting because of that. I think there are fun ideas in here. The saxophone is obviously a great input that just breathes some life into the track. It's not the most ambitious input from the saxophone, but still it's there, and it actually creates an improvement on the overall package and makes it a bit more on the interesting side. I also think the verses flow a bit better than the choruses, which makes it somewhat enjoyable. It's still very much solidly put in the E tier for me. Like it gets a pass because it has some fun ideas in there, and I think the execution might not be awful. The mixing needs proper rework, though, in my opinion. So, E tier for repeat there. I will not be repeating the E tier for the next song here, which is called To ljubav je by Đurđa. I'm very sorry, I don't know, but there's an accent on both of the D's here in this title. And the first time I heard this song, I was like, that opening melody, it sounds so much like Kiss from a Rose by Seal. And then I went and I listened to it, and I was like, yep, I still can't unhear it. And I mean, I'm not much for really just kind of, oh, this sounds like that and I don't like that. I don't particularly mind. And I mean, it's a great song to kind of get, like, have the same melody as. There are a lot of differences within the rest of this song, though, so no big deal. I think what they really managed to do very nicely with this is that they scale it back just right to really create an intimate feeling. I feel the passion in this song. The intimacy is really poignant, I'd say. It feels a bit cinematic as well, while still maintaining itself quite restrained. This kind of waltz-like movement that the song really has throughout is very engaging and beautiful to me. I like this swaying mood that it really presents. Vocally, I think it's quite beautifully sung, really, and it's also a song that gets progressively grand without overdoing it. I think that's a lot of songs in Eurovision standard, like in the Eurovision context, really wants to be progressively grand and almost overdoes it. It's a very common occurrence. Here, I think that it's scaled back just right to really create something that feels both honest and sincere, while also really just incorporating that gradual progression of creating something very compelling. I think one thing that I probably like them to change a little bit is in the mix, that I think the vocals are a bit on the sharp side. They really just kind of overpower at certain times, but it's just such a very, very little nitpick, and it's in the mix, so you won't really notice it when you see the performance live. I hope the live performance is out of this world great, because this is also in the A tier, and it's probably my preferred choice. I have to be honest. I'd be ecstatic if Montenegro went with this one. I think it's a very compelling ballad. I think it just hits right without overdoing anything, and I'm very, very fond of this song. And melodically, it really works for me. I love this waltz-like movement that the song has, and I've been listening to it quite a bit, I have to be honest. So I approve of that one. I certainly do. And that's 5 songs down, still 11 to go. And the next one is by Glumci band, maybe? It's called Sun, very easy title to pronounce. This one also stands out. A lot of the songs really just have this a bit kind of compelling rock sound to them, without maybe completely killing it in the production department, which is fine, I don't mind. This one kind of is all over the place, I have to be honest. I don't particularly find myself to be very connected with it. It's ambitious collectively, but I'd say that it has no real kind of clear sense of direction or purpose throughout this song, which holds it back a little bit. The harmonies kind of collide throughout. It's a bit on the messy side. The mixing doesn't really bring any clarity to it. However, at times when I listen to the song, I'm just like, I can click with certain aspects of it. I hear that the want is there to really create something that should be engaging and grand and purposeful and striking. So I can appreciate that, and I'm actually looking forward to seeing how they will actually pull this off live. This is probably one of the songs that I'm most intrigued to see how they actually can make this work, because there's obviously a lot of people involved. I don't want to see it just become kind of like a shout fest where they're just standing up, all of them in a line, and they just shout over each other. I don't want to see that. I feel like there is potential here to just kind of create something that could work. So I will be placing it in the D tier. It would be on the low end of D tier because I don't particularly enjoy it, but there are parts where I'm just like, I kind of connect with something. I can gravitate towards these small little details in here and just enjoy those. So D tier for Sun. Next up is Ljeto, 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 which is the song by Isak Šabanović. And there are a lot of things to really say about this one. It sounds, I don't mean this in a very, very derogatory manner, but just maybe a slight one. It sounds a lot like a kind of a YouTube song from 2012, like kind of like a meme song for YouTube, which sounds really mean. I don't intend it to be like that, because what it does, that those songs also did, is they really rely on a chorus to be very, very catchy, and they've got that. Absolutely. Vocally, it's decent. You know, I don't think it stands out or it's a massive hit in that regard. But the hook is absolutely there. It's one of these songs from the selection that you will remember due to the hook. It might also help that the song is very repetitively structured to kind of emphasize this hook. In my case, I get very, very tired of it. In other people's cases, they probably just kind of really click with that and enjoy it more because it returns so frequently. However, gotta say, the production sounds... it would sound unfinished even back 20 years ago in 2004. I don't connect with it at all. I feel like it sounds very unfinished, unpolished. Doesn't have the drive or engagement that a song like this needs. The punch instrumentally is kind of a necessity for a song like this to really work. This hook requests of the instrumental to have an impact that's forceful, and this one doesn't really have that. There's an immense need for polishing altogether here, up the drive of everything and clear up the mix. As it stands right now, it's not something that I particularly enjoy. I do enjoy it more than Repeat, but it's still an E tier kind of song for me, without much to write home about, for me personally. But for you, maybe it does. What do I know? Next up is Obala Raya by Kejt. I'm going for a bit of an English pronunciation on the name, because maybe that's how it's supposed to be. I'm not sure. Now, one thing that I think a lot of people who've watched me before know about me is that I adore drum and bass music. However, drum and bass music is also a very, very sensitive genre where you need the mixing to be absolutely top tier, because otherwise the punch of it won't really hit. Now, there are two ways of going with the drum and bass music. Either you go punchy or either you go liquid. And this one is in the middle. It's not restrained enough to be like a liquid D&B tune to kind of create that chill and more relaxing approach where it's just a constant pulse in the background, but it's also not as intense and hectic and snappy to be a high energy drum and bass tune. This one's just kind of in the middle, not really being... It's very inoffensive where it is in this on spectrum, and that's kind of an issue with me. Either you go full force or you go full liquid. Middle of the road drum and bass is kind of underwhelming to me. It also sounds kind of like the vocal is holding back a little bit. She has a very kind of shrieking tone in her voice, which I don't particularly mind, but it almost sounds like she's holding it back just a little throughout the song as well. And that also kind of emphasizes this feeling of middle of the road for me. I think if I were just to kind of focus on the beat as a whole, like the drum and bass beat, I'd probably go high energy for it and really just kind of make that snare a lot punchier, because right now it feels very plastic, doesn't really create that resonance in the track to boost it. I think the strings need to kind of be touched up. Like, it's a nice input. The strings are really nice and they add a lot of life to this song, but I think they need to be fuller and they need to be touched up to really enhance the impact that they create in the song. Vocally, it's somewhat interesting, but at the same time, I kind of don't really remember the melodic writing of the vocals, but they kind of shimmer nicely on the top of the song, but mainly the energy is really delivered through the percussion and this drum and bass beat. It's just a shame that the beat isn't really punchier and more forceful in here. Still, I'm just kind of leaning towards what songs do I enjoy returning to the most, and this is one of these that I do enjoy listening to it a bit more than most of the others in the selection. So I'll be placing it in the B tier. It will be at the low end of the B tier if we get more songs in there, but I want to place it higher than C, because I just feel like the ambition is there to create something that stands out among the competition with a different type of instrumental beat. So I think that should be admired just a little bit, at least. Next up is Luka Radović here with the song Kada, dođe, or something like that. And this This feels like it doesn't really belong in the selection because it feels quite uninspired compared to a lot of the competition. I think most of the songs really have like a clear approach that they actually want to deliver something for the audience. This one just doesn't really have that for me. It feels like we need to put together a song. Okay, we just put this one together. We don't feel very passionately about it. Maybe they do, like perhaps they do, but I don't feel the emotion that they want to transmit with this song. Mainly, I think a lot of it really comes down to the production, maybe. Like it's in dire need of a proper rework in that regard. There's this kind of synth bass in the song that's very static. It just pulsates 3 notes in a staccato manner. It's the same throughout the whole song. It sounds very uninspired and also quite stock soundy like. And there's a lot of just kind of, I get that vibe from the entire song. There's a lot of stock sounds here, not a lot touching up made on any of them really. The percussion sounds very basic and very just dragged out of the library. I think also the mixing, like there hasn't really been that much work in either balancing or equalizing. Like in terms of the balancing in either velocity or equalizing, it just feels like it hasn't really been altered. And yeah, I think the vocal hook is also quite standard and doesn't really leave an impression on me. This is one of these songs where I feel like, it's there, and it's probably the song that I remember the absolute least, which means that I probably just have to put it in the F tier. I'm sorry, but this is the song that hasn't left an impression whatsoever on me. So I'll just have to place it down there. It's not the worst thing ever, absolutely not, but I feel like I need to use the F category. I want to be nice, and I want to be like supportive of everyone, and I want this to be a success. I want it to be great live. I want it to get a remaster and a rework in the mix as well. But as it stands right now, it's just one of these songs where I feel the least for it. So F will stand for feel the least for it. That's where I would grade it for now. Next up is Milena Vučić, maybe, with the song Škorpija. And this is it's certainly an interesting one because it really wants to pack a punch. It wants to really deliver a lot of attitude. It wants to be in your face, to be convincing. Unfortunately, it just isn't because the production doesn't hold up to that regard. It doesn't have that forceful impact that I think it really wants to have. Really, the backing track is quite soft and uninteresting and underwhelming. Mainly, I'd probably say, especially when it comes to the actual impact hits of the track. I think kind of the energy as well of the track really relies a lot on that instrumental to boost it, and when you have a somewhat tired arrangement, it just falls flat, really. There is also kind of like this sing-along hook of the song, which is a lot of oh, 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 which I always kind of felt like, isn't that a bit of a lazy approach to really make your melodic writing about? And in this case, I really feel like that's the case. Chorus doesn't engage me. I think it just really is in need of a huge performance to actually make it stand out. And maybe we will get that. I hope we will get that, because then I could be convinced and won over and just be really begging for someone to really take a look at the mix and boost the actual impact hits and really boost the drive of the instrumental. As it stands right now, it's another E. It's another E tier song. I get this song. I feel like there is a lot of ambition here. There's just not enough in the execution of it to make it work, which is a shame, but it is what it is. Next up, if you want a difficult song title, this is the one, I suppose. This song is by Nemanja Petrović, and it's called Među, zvijezdama. Maybe. Now, I'm a huge fan of melodrama. I'm sure most people who watch my channel are familiar with that fact. I just don't think this one's gripping enough, which is a bit of a shame, because I would really... Whenever I start listening to this song, I feel like, okay, if it just builds effectively here, if it manages to connect with me, I'll be all on board. But it just never manages to do that, unfortunately. I think one thing that would really make this song a lot better would be an authentic orchestration, because right now everything's digital in this track, and it shows. It's very, very obvious when you listen to it. It feels fake, plastic, and underwhelming. Also think like really what happens when you have a digital backdrop trying to present so many emotions in its instrumentation, because there's a lot of strings, there's a lot of wide sounds that really want to create a lot of life into it. When all of that is digital, you don't feel the life from it unless it's masterfully produced, and this one unfortunately isn't. I just rather have them rework it by actually recording all of these sounds from the bottom and take away all of these digital percussion. We need more authenticity in this song for it to really feel emotionally loaded, I'd say. It's vocally competent though, and I can understand what it's going for. I don't really particularly mind it. I just feel like there's a lot of lost potential in it, and it doesn't really hold up compared to a lot of other songs. I think Sun is looking a bit empty in the D tier, so I'll put Nemanja here right next to it. They are in there for completely different reasons, but I think they'll just both fit quite nicely in there. As I move on to maybe another song that's also going to join them, actually. This is Clickbait by NeonoeN. And Clickbait is, again, one of the more intriguing songs in the selection. I have a lot of questions, and I have a lot of things that I really wonder about when I'm going to see this live. How will they pull this off? I guess the first thing that I'm kind of wondering how they will pull it off is this kind of radio filter on the vocal in the first verse. I think it's probably an easy fix, but will they use it? Because I think it kind of contributes to the song, make it feel a bit more like it's developing throughout. So it's a nice touch. I'm interested to see if they incorporate it. The main thing I'm interested in is, of course, the chanting of Clickbait. And when I listen to the studio cut here, when they chant Clickbait, it sounds like the most uninterested version of chanting something that I've ever heard. It feels like someone's holding them at gunpoint to basically just say it in the studio. It's basically just clickbait, and that's really the sample they're using. It does not provide any energy or engagement, but maybe that's just part of what makes it a bit funny, and maybe it wants to be that. But obviously for a song that's kind of relying on its chant to make it catchy, the chant does sound lazy. And whether that's a funny thing, and it's supposed to be, I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, overall, the whole arrangement of the song is a bit restrained, but it does build quite nicely towards the end to actually make it develop and evolve. So I guess that the drive in the song can actually be commended throughout the final part of it. I don't get particularly hooked myself, but it is rhythmically engaging. So I will be placing it actually at the top end of D tier. I think that's where I will place it, because I see this one and I feel the potential in it. I understand why it's here. I understand what they want to do, I think. And I understand why people would gravitate towards this one. I'm not sure if I would be particularly excited if it actually won the selection, but because there are other songs I obviously prefer over it. But it would certainly be interesting if they ended up going for this one. Now next up, I guess a slight improvement in terms of quality songwriting-wise here is the song by Nina Žižić, which is called Dobro, došli, which is... it's another one of these kind of grand ballads that really want to overpower you and overwhelm you and really get you hooked by it. And I'm sitting here and I'm a bit on the fence with it. I'm not overly impressed with it. Vocally, sure, it's competent and it's convincing. But what it ultimately ends up feeling like is that there's a lot of emotion without finesse in this song. And what I mean by that is that they want to make it very passionate, and they want to really deliver a striking impact with this song. But ultimately, what it ends up becoming is that the instrumental falls a bit flat. It is a very grand instrumentation that really wants to be huge, but a lot of it kind of just falls between I guess it slips between the cracks a little bit. I think the percussion doesn't really contain a lot of resonance in here. It falls flat and doesn't highlight any type of drive within the song. I think the beat overall is a bit on the incohesive side when it comes to the sound design and the actual, I guess, cohesion of it, like the collective delivery that it has. It feels a bit incohesive to me, and there's a lot of like found object sounds within this song that I do admire when you actually put them in, because they create a very refreshing, dynamic, and distinct tone to the instrumental. But what they sound like in here is that they're just very, very loud and kind of take over a lot. They kind of pierce through the soundstage in an unnatural manner that makes it a bit overbearing to me and makes it a bit distracting, which I think is the main takeaway I have from it. It feels like the ideas are all there, but do I really feel all of the life and all of the emotion that they want to put into it when I listen to it? No, I unfortunately don't. It's still compelling. It's a strong ballad. I'm placing it in C because I don't particularly don't particularly return to it as much as I do with the songs above it, but I see what they want to do with this one. I just feel like it's being not executed in the greatest manner, and it needs a little bit of polish. Again, I think I repeat myself quite a lot in this video. There are a lot of like similar issues I have with a lot of songs, but Dobro, došli is of course still towards the top end of the songs here. It's most likely going to find itself in my top 5, because another song that's also going to be finding itself there is Poguban, Ljeto, which is another ballad, female song, which I think there are quite a few of those, and they kind of, I don't think they particularly blend into each other, but it does become, like when you create the running order for this show, you kind of need to have that in consideration, I think. Anyway, Poguban, Ljeto here has a, very similarly to Dobro, došli, it's a huge instrumentation that I think could really hit if they're allowed a little bit of getting back into the studio and kind of just emphasizing the dynamics of it, because I think the whole collective composition in this song is there, but it doesn't really have the mix that highlights the dynamic shifts in the track, which I think they really need to touch up when they go back to it. Progressively, it's a well-constructed effort, really. I don't think the melody particularly sticks with me, but I think the backdrop could absolutely make up for that because the instrumentation is intriguing, and it has a lot of variation within it, and it feels lively. I think with an impressive stage performance, this certainly has potential to be very, very compelling. I do prefer it over Kejt as well. I'll be placing it very solidly in the B tier, and it's closer to an A than it is to a C, I guess, if that makes it any clearer to anyone watching. 2 songs left. I'm really enjoying talking about these songs, I have to be honest, and you can see that on the time that I've been talking on the video so far. Happy to have you still with me here as I go into the final 2 songs. The first one of them is called Nova by Tina Džankić, and this is, I guess it's the obligatory effort of making something that maybe isn't really like the rest of the songs again, but in a completely different way. This feels very old-fashioned. It feels very nostalgic to a certain type of audience. And I have to admit, I think it is quite funky, but maybe not particularly engaging, at least not for me. I find there to be many songs within this genre that really outsells it and really emphasizes energy more. I think this one's a bit too laid back to really create something that's addictive or engaging or intriguing, or kind of those feelings. There are a few colorful chords in here. There's a nice kind of combination of very bright electric guitar strumming and horns that actually make the song quite colorful and just add a bit of flavor to it. But I wouldn't really say that the instrumental as a whole, the energy that it has, nor the vocals really drive the song forward, and I'll just kind of be satisfied with placing it in the D category, I think. Yeah. Still, I understand why it's here, and maybe there's an audience for it, but I'm not that audience. And finally, it is the song Čuješ by Verica Živković. Okay. Anyway, now this song really kind of evokes a lot of thoughts in my head, because when it starts, I feel like there's a very atmospheric opening to this song that makes me very intrigued. I want to hear where it's going to progress. When I listened to the songs the first time, this was the last song in the playlist, and I was like, "Ooh, maybe this is where maybe this is where I find the one." But it quickly I quickly realized that no, this was not where things were really going to become very impressive and such for me, because this song kind of let go of its hold on me very, very quickly. Kind of once she started singing, I just zoned out, because I understood, okay, it's this approach they're going for. They're not relying on intimacy. They're not relying on something to feel very sincere or honest. They went with a rather predictable and unimaginative arrangement here, which I'm a bit disappointed by, because I thought that opening really set the tone quite nicely, but it felt like once the song actually got going, I felt unfortunately like I've heard it all a million times before, which is, not particularly an issue or so, but in this case I just felt like I really wanted something to floor me. I think one thing that's really well incorporated in this song are probably the strings, mainly the cello, which is very effective in here. That's probably what really led me into really thinking that I would enjoy this early on. Unfortunately, I don't think the other instrumental inputs are very well incorporated here. The drums are completely hidden at the very back of the track, due to, I guess, the poor mixing. Really muffles up the soundstage, and I don't think the song is particularly expressive because of it. The whole balancing between instrumental inputs is not there, and I think the drums are the main standout of just how you can really hide something in plain sight, I suppose, but in a manner that just kind of gets the song very, very underwhelming. And it always, once those strings come back into the song, they come kind of like a whiplash effect in there, because they don't particularly flow with the rest of the soundstage, which is just rather strange, because it felt like they really wanted to build the song around that intimate feeling, but I don't connect with it. It's an E effort for me. It's definitely top of E tier for me, because there are things about this one that I really appreciate, but I feel this, again, is very, very unfinished. And that is the tier list that I have for Montesong 2024. Please let me know what your thoughts are about the songs in this selection. As you can see on screen, I would obviously be very, very happy if either Đurđa or Baryak were selected. However, that of course comes down to how they perform their songs live. I'm also rooting for Tamara. I'd be very, very happy with that choice as well. If they went with Kejt, I need a proper revamp. If they went with Nina or Anastasija, I probably request the same. And if they go with anything else, I think some of them would be interesting picks, like, I guess, Clickbait or Sun, but I'd rather prefer one of the top few songs in my list personally. However, life will not end if I don't have my way with this selection. There will be more, and I'm sure that just like with every year in Eurovision, at least once your favorite will win a national final. I think that's happened every year, surely. Let's hope this year won't be the first that it doesn't happen. Anyway, thank you so much for sticking around till the end. It's kind of incredible to me that you've watched almost 40 minutes of me talking about 16 Montenegrin songs that were released not too long ago. Please let me know as well if you're excited for Eurovision. I'm sure you are. At least I am, because I got my excitement up a little bit now when I started listening to these songs, and I felt like we're actually going to have a Eurovision song picked soon. And I will be trying to really keep up with the season this year as much as I can. You never know really how much time I will have, but I always enjoy talking about the songs, and I'd very, very much like to just make a tier list like this for every national final if I can. And then we'll see if I manage to cover the national finals as well. Maybe we'll do some watch-alongs for some of them. That would be fun, but I can't promise anything for it at the moment. Still, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and please let me know which song is your favorite from the selection in the comments. And until next time, I hope you all take care, and bye for now.